and welcome to Workshop 6. In this workshop we are going to set up another 2 servers, and then we're going to install and configure by9 on those 2 machines. What we'll do is when we configure by9, we will set them up as secondary servers, and we will link them to the primary, and we'll link the primary to the secondaries. And then what we'll also do is we'll identify the network traffic between the primary and secondary servers, and then configure logging so we can profile it. So that's basically what we're going to do in here, but that does involve quite a bit of work. Okay, what we need to do is make sure we connect to all of our machines using our Ubuntu desktop machine, which we'll do, and I have my machine here, which I'll just log into. So I have my machine here, and to get myself ready, I've actually pre-set up myself with 4 terminals. One of them is going to be for running local queries, and then 3 logins, one to the primary server and then a login to the 2 secondary servers, so I can actually start working on them. So I've preset myself up with that. The other thing is I need to create these 2 servers, and what I've done is I've done that in advance. Now if you need to create your servers, you can either create them from scratch, copy the basic server that you actually created in session 2, or you can actually use the pre-created image from the NAS drive if you're actually in the lab and have access to it. Now when you set these up, don't forget they must have a static IP address, and you must have that address within your range, within your IP range of where you're working. If you're working in the laboratory, that IP range, you will have been provided with addresses that work in that range, and you to stick to using them. Otherwise you'll have to work out what your own addresses will be in your own environment. Now from my point of view, I'm working not in the lab but in my own network, so I've had to I've reserved myself some IP addresses. Now before I dive into this, the first thing I'm going to do is some planning, and I suggest you do the same. So what I've done is, because I'm out of the lab, I've sat down and worked out what my current architecture is and what it's going to be. So at the moment I have my client machine, which is running on 10.168.100.13, and it's connecting to a primary domain server, and that's the only machine I have at the moment. So if I bring in my machine here, and if I go to my network settings, I can actually see here wired settings, details, and my current IP address is 10.168.100.13, and I'm connecting, or I am using, the DNS server 10.168.100.150. so I'm using that primary server that we set up before. So we've got that set up. Now what am I doing? So that server is sat, and I've currently got my client machine connected to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build myself 2 further DNS servers, which are going to be secondary servers. Now these 2 secondary servers, I'm going to set them up such that the first one, which I'm going to call DNS2, is going to be my name server 1, and DNS3 is going to be my name server 2. My primary DNS server will stop being the name server altogether when I actually link it in. My 2 secondary servers are both going to have zones that are transferred from the primary, and they're going to have their own cache. And these 2 machines will then be put into the zone declaration on the primary as being the as being the name servers for that zone, although they are secondary servers. So I will then be obviously removing the primary from it. So my name server 1 will stop being 150, will become 151. I will have a second server on 152, and they are the settings that I will need to put in to my IP settings of my client. Now that could come from a DNS server, a DHCP server potentially, if it was set up, or in the case of my machine, it isn't set up on the DHCP server, so I will set them up manually by simply going into the wired settings. And as I did before, in the IP4 settings, I will take off the automatic and I will override what the DHCP server gives me. So I'm in effect using my own infrastructure, but on a network that already allocates addresses. So that's how I'll do that. Okay then, so quick recap. Primary server is going to be limited to only holding the zone and transferring the zones to the secondary servers. The secondary servers are going to be providing the access from the client, so the client will be redirected to these two machines. At the same time as doing all of that, we already know how we can control who can access the machines. So the primary server, I'm going to prevent the clients on the local network from actually connecting to it. So what I'll do is I'll allow query to only these two servers. And that's only so I can do testing, but nobody should be allowed to do any querying except these secondaries, because I need that. What I'll also be doing is these will be set to have the master as the primary server. The master will be set to transfer to these, and I will do a notify no. I will set a notify no on this. Okay, so that's what I need to build. So these two servers have got quite a bit of work to be done to them. So what do I need to do to them? Well, everything I'm going to do to those two servers, which I've just defined, I'm going to set them up, install bind9 and the DNS utils, and then I'm going to configure them as secondary servers for the student.co.uk zone, which is already on the primary. Now, at the same time as doing that, I will also set up the RDNS as well. So on top of the student.co.uk, I will set up the RDNS too. Then what I've got to do is I've got to start testing them. So quite a bit of build work to do here. If you look at the testing, I'm going to use NS lookup, and I'm going to do some name server lookups. I'm going to look up for some fully qualified domain names and some IP addresses. So if I want to look up IP addresses and reverse them, I obviously need the RDNS on the secondary servers as well. Okay, so let's begin. First things first, if I go to my machine here, and let's have a quick check or a quick review of the machines I have. So from here, SSH student at 10.168.100.150. So that's my primary server. So I'm on the primary server, and if I do a cat command on /etc/bind/amd.conf.local, I can see there's my setting for my local configuration. I have the two zones. Now I've got myself blocked again here, so I'll have to open that up, and what I'll do is I'll actually do that now. So before I go any further, let's sort that out. Sudo nano Northumbria. We'll cop down and we'll just allow query, and we'll kill that off. Control K and save. Haven't changed anything in the database file, so I can simply restart that. So sudo system control restart bind9. Okay, so that's done. So I've sort of got myself in a reasonable position now. So that's my primary machine, and obviously there's quite a few changes to make. So what I'll do now is I'll go to this next machine here, and I'll connect to my other, I'll connect to one of the new servers I've just created. So on this one, SSH student at 10.168.100.151. Now this one is going to be my second DNS server. Oh, and I'm having a little bit of trouble connecting to that at the moment. Oh, there we go, it's connected. Yes, I'll save that. Northumbria. And I'm connected. Now this one is, as I said, DNS2, so that's it there, DNS2. Now I've renamed my machines. If you wish to rename your machines, I suggest you have a little bit of research to see how to do it. It's not that difficult. Okay, so what do I need to do now? Now I'm connected to that machine. Let's do a quick IPA. Let's have a look, and my machine has got 150, and there's nothing installed on it, but I'm connected. So we'll clear that, and I can always know which machine I'm on because this DNS1. Likewise, if I go to DNS up here, I've got my Ubuntu, student on Ubuntu. Where's it gone? There's my DNS1. So DNS1, and then I've got the terminal that I'm using. I've got another one here, DNS2, so let's go to the bottom one. From here, I'm going to log into the other server, so SSH student at 10.168.100.152. I'll accept that because it's the first time I've connected to it. And there we go. Okay, so that's DNS3. So where am I at? Okay, I've got DNS1, DNS2, DNS3. I'll just clear that screen. So those other two machines now need DNS utilities and bind installed. So let's go to DNS2. Let's do them in sequence. So sudo apt install bind9 and DNS utils. Northumbria. Yes. Let's go to the other machine now. And we can go sudo, oh, no, what am I talking about? Sudo apt install bind9 DNS utils. Northumbria. Yes, do the installation. Okay then. Let's just quickly drop back to the other one. It should be finished. DNS2, that's fine. And just cat / etc / bind9 / namedconf .options. Now if we look at the options, we can see by default we actually have forwarders blanked out, so I'm going to use routines. So I don't need to change that. And also you'll notice var cache bind is the folder where these temporary files will be created. So that's our secondary, basically the options set on it. If we now go to the other one that we just created, we can do the same. Cat / etc / bind / namedconf .options. And again, forwarded, and there's the cache. And this is DNS3. Okay then, so let's keep it nice and tidy. So clear that. Okay, so that's the machines and that's that part done. So let's have a little look back here. Keep an eye on what I've got to do. So that's installed. Now configure the two new servers to do student.co.uk. Okay then. So first things first, primary server. Our primary server, there we go. Our primary server now needs to allow transfer to these two servers. So to do that, we need to go sudo nano / etc / bind / named.conf .local. Now in here we've got allow query. We also now need to have allow transfer. So just underneath here, I'm going to put in allow transfer. And where do we need to allow the transfer? Well, we need to give it a list of addresses. So we're going to allow transfer to 10.168.100.151 and also to 10.168.100.152. So just a quick way, if I just go Control K, Control U, puts it back in. If I come down below the query and go Control U. Now also what I want to do is, for the moment, I'm going to leave this on local nets and this one. But I will be coming back to this to tie it down later on, and I'll tie it down so that the server itself can run queries for testing, and so can the secondaries. Now, once it's all configured, that could be taken out, but I tend to leave it in so the DNS service can actually, you can actually connect to it and do tests between all of the servers. So we've got that running. Next thing we need to do is save that, and then we need to restart this service. So sudo systemctl restart bind9. There we go. Now, what we should always do is check our log files. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick tail. I'll do sudo command just in case, tail /var/log/syslog. No signature for the name servers. Oh, that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. That's just the security aspect for the name servers for the signatures. So we're not using it. So what we'll do is we'll do a tail and we will pipe named and we'll grep named. Let's have a look. which it is named. Oh, come back. Right, 150. Ooh, 150. And what we'll do is instead of grep, we'll just use pipe it through more. Let's have a look. Okay, it looks like everything's loading. Managed keys, and we've got it there. All zones loaded. So that's fine. Not too worried about this. And zone is sending notify. So that's fine. So what we need to do now is we will just quit out of that. And I'll go back in 1 second. Comp local, and I'll just put in there also. Oops. I'll just tab in and notify no. And we'll do the same for the RDNS as well. So just after the file, we'll just put in, oops, we'll put in notify no. Okay, so that's them set up now. Quick restart, system restart, done. Okay, we've now got them in a basic setup where the primary can now talk to the secondaries. The secondaries don't know about the primary yet, but we've opened up the primary DNS so it's able to communicate with the secondary servers, and the secondary servers can talk back. So we've set up that channel. Now we need to do the two DNS servers, the two secondary DNS servers. So they are located here. So here's this one. So what we need to do now is set up the actual named.conf local to accept those two domains. So let's go in and do that. Sudo nano/etc/named, oh sorry, bind /named.conf.local. Now interestingly, what we don't need to do is we don't have database files. What we do have here is our zone declaration for student.co.uk. So we need to declare that. The other one we need to declare is the reverse DNS. So that will be a slightly different zone. So this one will be 168.10.in-addr.arba. So that's the two zones we need to declare now. Okay, so how do we want these set up? Well, we'll save that off and we'll have a look at how that's going to be configured. So secondary server, zone, and them, and that's just straightforward. So we'll do that. And what we'll do now is we'll say, okay, what do we need? Okay, so first things first, what we want is, this is a slave, because it's a secondary server. So what next? Well, the next thing is, I'm actually going to use a file declaration, because what I want to do is, I want it to actually have a fast restart time. So in here, we're going to have a database file, db.student.co.uk. Oh, student. And then the next thing I'm going to need in there is I'm going to have to specify where the masters are. Now there's only one master. So masters, notice it's plural, and there's only one. So I only need to put one IP address in here, 10.168.100.150. So, and I have to, even though there's only one, put the semicolon on the end. So I've basically declared it and said that's where it is. Other thing I can do is, I still am allowed here, allow query. And what am I going to allow query? Well, I'm going to allow query to local nets. So we're taking control of what can query this server. So, and that is local nets. Okay, so now pretty much the same for the one below. So quick way of doing it, I'll just delete all those entries, put them back, put that one back in, go to here, and it's now not that, it will be db.168.10.in-addr.arba. Now, because I've got no database file, the only way this gets a serial number to actually identify what version of anything it has is it gets it from the SOA record in the transfer. And that's why the SOA record and that serial number is so important, because when the zone transfer occurs, it looks for that, for changes in that, to decide what it needs to do with that database that it has on this server. So that should be enough to get this machine up and running. So what we'll do is a quick test. So we'll save that, we'll exit out, and we'll restart the bind service on this machine. So sudo systemctl restart bind 9. Okay, now just a quick test. I'll do a quick ns lookup. Actually, no, what I'll do first of all is I'll have a look at the system log. So I'll go till -150 on /var/log/syslog. And I'll just push that through more. Let's have a look. Things listening, obtaining root key, that, downloading lots of zones. So it says here all zones loaded. So let's have a look. And and zone 10 transfer started. Transfer from is where we wanted it, and student and student.co as well. So there's the two transfers that I was interested in, and it looks like they've both gone through okay. So because they've transferred, I should be able to query this machine as a secondary. So I'll just do a quick ns lookup, and I will look up www.student.co.uk from my local machine. So I'm looking it up from this local machine. Oh, I could put the IP address. Oh, no, I'll do it in the... I'll put the IP address in 10.168.100.151. Now that's from the secondary machine, which means this is now providing them. Now I didn't set those records up, they're transferred. So that's the first secondary server set up. So now I need to do exactly the same to the other server. So we come along to here, and I need to do exactly the same on this machine. So we go sudo nano /etc/bind /namedconf.local. So in here, I now need to do my zone declarations again. So it's exactly the same as the previous server. So I'll fast forward from here and get this one set up. Okay, that's all the zones in on this one, and I've restarted the server. So just to have a quick check there, cat etc/bind /named.conf.local. Okay, so there's the zone set up. There's a couple of changes we need to make on the primary, and we'll pop there in a second. But before we do that, if I just do a quick ns lookup, www.student.co.uk, and we'll run this off the 192.168.100.152, and we'll run that off the secondary server, and that's worked. Okay, let's go back to primary. Now on the primary, one of the things we had running, one of the things we want to do is now we want to start putting some limits in. So we're now starting to sort of like protect the primary DNS server. So what we'll do is we'll go sudo nano /etc/bind /namedconf.local. And what we need to do here is we now need to start protecting this server. And we do that with the allow query. No longer are we going to allow local nets. We're only going to allow 3 machines to connect to this now. If we're logged into the machine and we want to run tests against itself, we'll need localhost. If we then want to run a query from one of the secondaries, we'll need that as well. So 10.168.100.151. And the other machine we'll want is 10.168.100.152. So that machine is allowed to query itself, as are the secondary servers. And the other one we want to do on here is exactly the same. So we want to allow 127.0.0.1 itself. We also want to allow 10.168.100.151 and 10.168.100.152. So that's itself and the two secondary servers. So they can all intercommunicate. If we save that, drop out and restart the server. So sudo system ctl restart by 9. So that should be the server up and running now. So I should be able to still run a query here on my own. So if I do a quick on my local machine ns lookup www.student.co.uk to 127.0.0.1, and I can run a query. So I've limited it, and that's fine. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is, I think I'll go to the secondary servers and clear that error up. Now, if you remember in the log file on the primary, I had these DNSSEC errors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy that up on the secondaries. This isn't something I would do on a production environment. This is just to tidy the logs up a little bit. On a production environment, that would be highlighting to me that there's an issue with the servers, but it would hopefully correct itself in time. So I wouldn't want to clear those errors, but I am for the sake of these exercises. So on DNS2, what I want to do is I want to go sudo nano and /etc/bind/namedconf.options. So in here, I'm going to now tidy it up to say that it doesn't need the actual DNSSEC. So if I change auto to no, DNSSEC validation to no, and save it, I'm actually going to fix that little problem. So I'll exit out of there and I'll restart by 9 on here. So sudo system ctl restart by 9, and that's done. And I'll do it on the other secondary server as well. So that's primary, so it's not that one, it's 2. I want 3. Where's 3 gone? Ah, there's 3. Okay then, so sudo nano /etc/bind/named.conf.options, and we'll take it out of here as well. No, this, I'll exit. Sudo system ctl restart by 9. Okay, so that should tidy those errors. So if we just do a quick tail /var /log /syslog dot in there for some reason. There we go. And we just do the last 50 lines. Okay, we can see when it's actually loaded this time, it hasn't given me all those errors. So we're okay. Yeah, so we're okay. Right, okay, then what's the next thing we need to do then? So we've tidied that up, we've limited it. What's the next thing we need to do? Okay, we need to run some queries, but there is something else I need to do. Tidied those up, done them. Ah, yes, the name server records. If you remember, I'll just bring this back in. If you remember, one of the things we discussed was the fact that these name server records need to be changed to the secondaries. So in the primary DNS, I now need to fix that. So let's do that now. So if I go to here, I need to go to my primary server. Here we are. So sudo nano etc bind /db.student.co. So this database file, I'm now going to fix the NS1s and NS2, etc. So my NS2 is going to be an IN A record. It's going to be 10.168.100.152. And this one is going to be 151. So name server 1, name server 2 has IP addresses. My IN address, IN1 points to that, and then I go at IN name server, and it points to nameserver2.student.co.uk. So there we go. So that's those two now done. So name server 1, name server 2, and I can find both of them from those addresses. Made the change, so let's go to the serial number. And the date today is the 25th, so 2501. So we should be able to save all that off now. Alt S, exit out, and we should be able to restart the bind service. Oh, I shouldn't really do that, should I? What I should really do is actually do a test on that file first. Okay, let's do the test on the file. So it's named checkzone, and I'm checking student.co.uk, and the file name is db.student.co.uk. I'm in the same directory, so that should be fine. Failed, file not found. I'm not in the directory, am I? /etc/bind/, okay. There we go, and it's fine. Okay, that said, next one I need to do is I will now go back and I will do the 168. There we go. Okay, so this one now needs changed as well. So the name server is name server 1, and the other one is going to be name server 2. Name server 2.student.co.uk. So if I look up that zone, I can find out where the name servers are, and likewise they'll be resolved in the other machine. Now again, I've made a change. It's 25th, and that's an 01, so we'll save that. Okay, and if we now do a checkzone on that before we reload, so checkzone at 10.168.in-addr.arpa, and we want to check the ARPA file, so the one we created, which would be .168. Oh, out of zone. What have I done wrong? Ignoring out of zone. 168 ARPA. Let's go back. Not loaded. No SOA record. Let's have a look, see what we've done. Have I got that right? 10.168.in address.arpa etc. Look what I've done. 168.10. I'm not even doing it right myself there. Right, okay. There we go. So putting in the correct domain name to check the file helps. Okay, so we're ready. So we can actually restart the server. So restart the service and we're done. Okay, so given them on that machine and I'm allowed to query it myself, let's see if we can do a quick RDNS on the www.student. So ns lookup www.student.co.uk from the local machine, and that works. And then what we'll do is we'll pick up one of those addresses and RDNS it. Make sure that's working as well. So we go 10.168.101.2 and we should be okay. Yeah, everything seems to be working. And the interesting one is going to be now type equals name server for student.co.uk or 127.0.0.1. Yeah, and there's my name servers. And we can do a quick lookup for them as well. So if we now say, okay, well, I know there's two servers. Where's NS1? Oh, where's NS1? NS1 is located there, and where's NS2? And NS2 is located there. So now I'm broadcasting them correctly. So that's been restarted. So to get the final part of this working, I'm going to now go and restart my two servers. So DNS1, restart bind. Go to the DNS3, which is DNS3, and if I do a quick restart on that, Okay, and the other thing we probably should do here now is if I go to my machine, I should be able to use them. So from here I can go ns lookup, and I want to look up www.student.co.uk. Sorry, I don't want to look that up. I want to look up minus type equals the name servers for student.co.uk from 10.168.100.151. And now it's telling me I've only got one, and I think the reason for that will be, try it again, and then the reason for that will be because of the old. So I need to flush that. So sudo rndc flush, and I'll just flush everything. So sudo rndc flush, rdnc, sorry, rdnc. Ah, it's not installed. Ah, wrong machine, flush my local cache, sorry. Local cache flush. Right, there we go. Still getting the 1 from 151. Okay, 151 is still got an old cache. That's why, because of the no notify. Okay, so let's go to RNDC. It's actually reloaded it. So what I need to do here is on 3, I need to do an RNDC flush. So sudo rdnc flush. RNDC flush, which it's now done. Do the same on server 2. So sudo RNDC flush, and that's done as well. I should be able to go back to my local machine now, run my query, and I'm still only getting one server. Right, so let's have a look and see what we've done with student.co.uk. cd/etc, something that can happen occasionally. If we go to var/cache, we can go to our cache. Now, where's it gone? Ah, wrong machine. Wrong machine. If we go to the secondary servers, this can sometimes occur. So if we go cd/var/cache and we go to bind, oh, sorry, we got the bind folder, we can see that we've got some temporary files in there. One of them is a journal file, so we'll ignore that, that's just keys. But we've now got those two files. Sometimes they can go out of sync. So what we need to do is we need to clear those to flush the cache on them. Something that is occasionally needs to be done. So the easiest way to do that is sudo rm and we want db. So first of all what we'll do is we'll list them first. And let's db start and let's see what we get. We got those two files, so ls rm db star. Okay, and restart bind. Okay, so that's that on server 2. So let's now go to server 1. Sorry, server 3. There we are. So cd/var/cache bind ls, and we've got those files there as well. These are the temporary files. So what we can do is we can go sudo rm db star. Then we can restart bind. And there we go. Okay, now let's go back to our machine, and what we'll be able to do now is query those, make those queries. So we can check on 1 and we can check on 2. There we go. So that's now working. So there was a little bit of a flush error there. We deleted the files, and that's due to the just the way that we're setting them up. Sometimes things can go slightly out of sync. Once it's all been initialized like this, we should be okay from now on for changes. So that's the secondaries now in place, and the primary. So let's quickly drop back to this and see what we've done. What we've done is our client machine is pointing to our DNS1. So what we'll need to do now is remove that, because this will no longer work. And this here, we've got the primary server linking to the two secondaries. Our name servers have been changed. The zone files are transferred and the cache is working. So let us now go back. And what we'll do is we'll make one last change to this, which is on our client machine itself. If we now go to our client machine, go to wired settings, what we should be able to do now is change our IP4 settings and put in our secondary servers. 10.168.100.152. So now what we're pointing to are the secondary servers. So if we apply that, reset the network card, and now what we should be able to do is if we now go to this machine here, which is our actual machine. I may have lost my connections on the others. I should now not need to specify this at all. I should now be pointing to the right servers. And there we have it. So it's using my local resolver, and it's come back and said, there's the answers. And obviously the usual things are going on in here. So what we can do now is, if we go and have a look at this, it says we need to start looking at the traffic. So it's set up, oh no, sorry, we're not looking at that yet. Merge all the log files. No, we're not doing that at all, are we? No, what we're going to do is we're going to run these queries. So we've done some of those already in our testing. So test the secondary servers for name servers. We've done that. We've done lookups for the 4s, and we've done reverse lookups. So we've done all these tests as part of the build, which is great. So the next thing we need to now do is set up logging using var log, query log on all the servers. Now this includes the primary server, because obviously if we run any queries from the secondaries, they'll appear. So that's what we'll do. We'll set up logging and get that all running now. We'll then run some additional queries, and they should all go in the log file. And we'll, at the end here, this one, 4, this isn't something I'm going to do. I'm going to leave that to yourselves because you've got some research work to do, looking at unique word count or line count and grabbing lines out of text files, etc. So they're just skills you should have already. Or if you haven't, you should be developing them. Okay, so what we want to do now is we now want to look at setting up the logging to the var log query file. Okay, so where are we going to do that? Well, let's bring our machine back up, and we're going to do that on all 3 of the servers. So we'll start doing that now. Okay, first of all, we'll just clear these screens up just to tidy everything up for where we are. Okay, nice and tidy. Okay, so we'll start with the primary server. That's DNS2, DNS3, DNS1. Okay, cd/etc bind. Let's go to the folder where we're going to do all of this. Now this is going to be done in the named local file, so remember that. So we need to go sudo nano/etc/ I'm already in the file, so it's named.conf.local. So in here we have the 2 zones. Right at the bottom here, I want to start adding in the actual logging facility. So let's have a look at what we're going to do there. Okay then. So to do that, we want query and log. What will I do first? Should I put the logging? I'll put logging in first, and then I'll create the file. Okay, so we want logging. I always find it useful to actually put my open and closing brackets in right from the beginning. So logging. How do we want logging to be done? Well, we need a channel. And the channel just allows us to define where we're going to put things. So we'll call it query.log. We could call this anything because it's just a name that we use to reference later. So the next thing we do is we actually create the channel. So how do we create the channel? Well, the channel goes to a file. So it's file. And where's that file going to go? Well, so what we do is we give it full path. So var log and query.log. So that's where it's going to go. And what else do we need to do in there? Well, we need to say how much information is going to go in that file. So by defining the channel, we're saying it's this file with this much information. So this one is the severity, and we're going to have debug level 3. So severity debug 3. Okay. And the last thing we need in here is the actual output to the file, the category that is going to be put into the file. So category queries is what we're going to put in there. Where's it going to go? And we simply define the channel that it's going to go to. So we're going to put it into query.log. So that's where it's going. I'm putting in a query log. So that query log is actually the name of the channel, not the file. The file's over here. Okay, so we can save that. Now what we can do is we can actually go and create that file. So to do that, we go to var log folder. And if we list up in here, we can see the various log files, and there's several, of which one of them is, if we look at it here, syslog. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, we first of all want to create the file. So we go sudo touch. And we touch the file. So touch query.log. We've created the file. So now we change it. So we change ownership to bind for that log. So bind, or we could just go bind actually, or bind query.log. Okay, so what's that done? Well, quite a bit. What we've now done is we've actually got this file in this folder. Oh, sorry, ls-l a, list them all up, see if it comes up, and we should see it there, bind. So there it is. So there's the file. And as you can see, a touch creates an empty file. The change of ownership has changed it to bind. Group is owned by root, which because we use the sudo command. And if you notice, bind is the user, and the user has read-write access. So we can start writing that file. Almost. If you remember, we discussed AppArmor. AppArmor is something that we have in here to stop or protect our file systems when a machine is potentially compromised or a service is compromised. So the next thing we've got to do to get logging working on here is actually get that set up. So where do we find that file? Well, if we go to cd/etc, we generally have config files in here. And one of them is in here is the AppArmor. AppArmor, there we go. There's an AppArmor.d file folder. If we list up the files in here, we can see we've got several systems. And one of them is right there. That's the one we want to change. So let's change that one. So it's sudo nano user, and it's user sbin, and it's named. So this is the configuration file. So if we go all the way at the bottom, you'll notice right at the top, before I go running off and doing that, so it's user sbin named flags attached, and then there's an open bracket. If we go all the way at the bottom, we'll see there's a close bracket. So above that is what we need to put in. And we've got various things in here that it can have access to. So what I'm going to do here is right at the bottom, I'm going to put in my file. I could find somewhere slightly more appropriate, I suppose. Because if I look around, I should find there are some files in varlib, varlog somewhere should be there. There's cache. Should be read only for bind, that's true. Yeah, and there's cache, read write. And if I keep going, look at this, var log named. So named we can do anything in there. So because it's a log file, I'll put it in next to this. So var/log/query.log, so I can specify an actual file rather than a directory, read writable, and save that. Put a comma on the end because obviously it's a list. Save that. And now all I have to do is actually load that into memory. So the way to do that now is the AppArmor parser, because obviously I need this to be done now. So sudo app, how do we spell that? AppArmor_parser. Yep, it's found it. So now I'm going to tell it to dynamically reload that. By dynamically reloading this file, I'm not compromising the system in any way, because nothing else is going to have a problem. So AppArmor, and I want to reload etc AppArmor.d, and it's user sbin named. Okay, doesn't look like it's done anything, but I got no errors. Okay then, let's restart on this DNS server. Let's just quickly restart it, restart the server, and let's see if logging works. Just when you need it. Sudo systemctl restart bind9. Okay, it looks okay so far. And let's have a quick look at the tail of the syslog. Tail /log /syslog. Actually, it might not be enough, so we'll do -150 and we'll pipe that through more. Let's have a look, see what we've got. Bind9's loading. Oh, I've got access denied up there somewhere. So let's try that again. App armor denied. Open proc kernel GUIP. So there's got some bits and pieces. App armor, open profile, named load configuration, auditing. It doesn't look like it's anything to do with what I'm doing. Something I would probably go and look at later on. Okay, what we'll do now then is we can quit out of there. Let's do a test. And so if we go ns lookup www.google.com 127.0.0.1. So we'll force it off the local machine because I'm on the primary server. Okay, there we got the result. Timed out, and then we've got the result this time. Okay, so it's working. So let's have a little look at that log file. var/log/syslog. Not syslog, sorry. cd to the log folder. Let's have a look. ls-la. Let's have a look, see where query log is. Query log, there we go, 885. So let's have a quick look at that. It's cat query, so it's obviously got something in it. And there we go, there's a load of queries coming from 127. And it's done A records and quad A records searches there. So just before we go, let's do one more and have a see what we get. So we'll look up diy.com off that server as well. And do a quick search. That one came up straight away. Let's have a look at the log file, and there we go. It got the diy.com, and it also gave a prod DIY. It's why would it do that? Let's have a quick look. Because it was a diy.com is a canonical name, so it was a C name. So it did the search and then had to go back for the C name as well. So there we go. Okay then. So the query log is working. So we can actually see that now. And that can be analysed. So we've got a client ID, we've got an IP address, port numbers, the query that was looked for, and that's just what we were after, the queries that have been carried out. So let's have a look down here. So we've done Google, we've done that. Let's have a look for hello as well. Let's go for here, let's do a quick look for hello. Whoops. Hello.com. And we'll do that. Instead of doing it off the local machine like that, let's do it and 168.100.150. So we're going to do it, instead of going localhost, we're actually going to go out over the network and through the TCP stack that way. So instead of doing the loopback adapter. Okay, and there we've got an answer, another canonical name. But anyway, let's have a look at the query. And there we go. And this time we can see where the query came from. It came from 150. So we can actually see where the queries are coming from. That's one of the reasons I actually set up to allow localhost to be able to do this. So it just allows us to be able to do these queries that way, so for testing. Okay, so all we have to do now is set that up on the other two servers, and then we can start running and collating some tests. So I want to leave them there for now, and what we can now do is we can now rerun the previous queries against each of the servers in the DNS. So now, therefore, what we need to do is we need to get DNS logging up on all the machines. I've shown how to do one, so I'm going to leave the rest to yourselves. Okay, and that's the end of the workshop. So let's have a look what we've done. It's a big one. We've configured two secondary DNS servers and we've linked them to the primary server, like so. Then what we've done is we've removed the name server records to eliminate the primary server from the from the list of name servers. The zones are being transferred. We had a little problem where we had to clean them up. That's fine. These machines are running their own local caches as well. And the other thing we've done is our client machine is now directed to these two servers instead of the primary, but the primary wouldn't allow it to run queries anyway. So that's pretty much our secondary DNS's setup. Okay then, that's it, all done. Next thing we'll do is session 7.